Thank you, Andre. Welcome everyone to another edition of Product People Community Events. And today we're going to be speaking about a practical approach to creating successful product strategies with the Director of Product at Xing. And I'm personally excited about this topic and especially about getting a practical view because there might be a lot of theory floating around. So it's beneficial to tie it down with a practical approach. But before we jump into that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Dina, and I'm an Associate Product Manager 1 here at Product People. And before joining Product People, I was working as a customer technical support for a couple of years. And some of the clients that I had privilege to work with when I was, or during my time at Product People include WeShare in the B2C space and RotaGeek in the B2B space. And let me also give you a brief about our company, Product People. So what do we do at Product People? We help businesses not only discover, but also deliver great products on an interim basis. We onboard fast, align teams, and deliver outcomes. We also aim to empower our 13K strong PM community by sharing knowledge generously. So thank you all for being here. And before I hand over to our speaker today, I'd like to get us started with some icebreaker questions about our topic today, which has to deal with product strategy. So if you're on Zoom, you're going to find a poll popping up where you can just directly enter your answers. And if you're on another platform, feel free to share your answers in the chat, and we're also going to see them. So the first question is, on a scale from 1 to 5, how strong is your current strategy? 1, non-existent. 2, weak and not very well communicated. 3, we have something and we communicate it sometimes. 4, strong and well communicated. 5, builds sustainable strategic advantages and is well understood by everyone in the organization. Second question we have is, who do you think should participate in formulating a product strategy? A, management. B, PMs. C, the whole product team, including devs, designers, and so on. Or D, a wide range of teams, including finance, marketing, sales, and the other functions. And the third question we have is, what do you think is the most important factor for establishing a good product strategy? And feel free to choose more than one answer here. So A, knowing your target market. B, assessing current and future trends. C, keeping some flexibility. D, focusing on the product instead of stakeholders, or other important factors. And please feel free to share it in the comments as well. So I personally am excited to see what people think about the second question, because I believe that some PMs have different views of who should participate in the product strategy. So I'm really interested to see how it's going to pan out. And we're getting some results in.
I can also say that we will touch probably all of these topics during the presentation, so
yeah.
Pretty well aligned.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and the results from the Zoom poll are in. So for the first question, people tended to say somewhere between 2 and 4, so somewhere between weak and strong. And for the second question, okay, that's interesting. 10% of people said management, 25% said PMs participate in formulating a product strategy, and 63% of participants said a wide range of teams should participate in formulating a product strategy. And for the third question, okay, so we have also couple of answers coming in, or like it's distributed across different choices. So it's distributed across knowing the target market, assessing current and future trends. Those are the top two. And then after that, 50% of people said keeping some flexibility is important, and focusing on the product instead of stakeholders is also an important factor. And I see some answers coming in from YouTube as well. People are saying that the strategy is weak and not very well communicated, and they think that the whole product team should be involved in creating a product strategy. And someone else has said that their product strategy is that they have a product strategy and they communicate it sometimes, and that a wide range of teams should participate in formulating a product strategy. And basically, knowing the target market is important, as well as assessing current and future trends, keeping some flexibility, and other factors as well. So yeah, I think we're off to an interesting start here. It's really interesting to see the distribution of answers across the different choices. And yeah, so without further ado, I'd love to give the floor to our speaker today, Nacho Bassino, who's the Director of Product at Xing, and he'll be sharing with us some approaches to create product strategies. Nacho, I'm gonna stop screen sharing now, and please feel free to share your screen whenever you're ready.
Can do that. You can let me know if that's working.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right, then thanks for having me. I think it's a very interesting topic, as I said, and I'm really curious it was very interesting to learn your answer to those questions. And we probably want to share some light into some of the approaches that we will focus on today. So I would like to start with a brief introduction with tennis, what tennis has to do with the strategy. But the reality is that a few years ago, I started learning how to play tennis. And I realized that tennis is all about direction. You need to learn in a fraction of a second the direction the ball is coming at you. You need to understand the direction. You need to position your body, the direction you need to position your racket to give the right swing, and the direction you want to place the ball on the other field to actually try to hurt your opponent the best. But does any of that had to do with products? Let me try to explain with some of the practices that teams are trying to do. And you, for sure, should be familiar with the role of delivery in the cycle of successful product development. So we all have been, for many, many years, honing our agile practices and trying to come up with this, okay, this is the definition that we are trying to build or the problem we are trying to solve, and then we are trying to deliver this solution in small chunks to deliver the right results to the customers, optimize it over time. So delivery is all about achieving the right results as fast as possible. But this is similar to having a very strong tennis player who has a very strong arm. So whenever he connects the ball, it's a super strong point, but he will probably miss a lot of the balls if he is not fast enough to move into the different parts of the field to actually connect with these balls coming at him. So in the last, again, many years, many teams have been focused on the discovery side of things, which is basically around validating the right solution. So we have some opportunities, some problems we detect, and before starting the delivery phase and trying to achieve the result, we want to validate if the solution we are considering building is the right one or not. And luckily, this is something we have been exploring, and we have been becoming more successful at not building their own things. And again, as I was saying, this is similar to a tennis player knowing where the ball is going to hit and just trying to run around the field to connect those balls that he can deliver to the other side. But there is one piece missing. And this, in the cycle of successful product development, is what I call the direction phase, which is all about the strategy. So teams that are doing discovery, that's awesome. And that's a very, very great step that we have built in many, many product teams. but they still need an input of what are the right problems to solve. And this is exactly what the strategy is trying to understand. We are trying to come with understand the vision that we are trying to achieve and build a bridge towards the problems and the goals we need to focus on that then we can pursue during discovery. And putting it on more perspective, direction is all about selecting and aligning on the most important opportunities. So another way, you have heard many times that the strategy is all about what we say yes to, but also most importantly, what we say no to. And that's a very critical step of selecting the right opportunities. We don't want teams doing discovery on all imaginable opportunities. We want them to be focused on narrow ones. And also, we want to have a clear reason of why these opportunities are the most important, so how they contribute to the product vision we are trying to achieve. And that's something also that the strategy should help us clarify. And finally, if we are doing this in as I say, a sequence, for sure, the sequence is in the perfect world, it's a bit more integrated, but usually we'll say that the direction is something we want to do first to set up teams for success when they are doing the later stage of discovery and delivery. Why? Because they will not only deliver the right results, but they will discover and deliver the right results to the right problems to connect us to the vision and achieve higher impacts. So I hope that's a convincing argument to say that strategy is super important, but the very unfortunate truth is that most product companies, most product teams don't have a clear strategy. And at the beginning, I thought that it was just me, that I was maybe the people I connect with don't have a great strategy. But recently, Marty Kagan, if you know Marty Kagan, he's probably arguably the greatest guru on product with the books Inspired and Empowered. But what he said is that most product organizations he works with don't even have a product strategy. It's not that the product strategy is bad, it's that it is inexistent. So this is a very widespread topic among different companies all around the world, different stages and different maturities. And in the last few years, I spent a lot of time trying to understand why. Why do companies lack product strategy? And sorry for this very complex diagram. This is based on the shops to be done forces diagram, which tries to explain when someone doesn't have it's an original state when they don't have a product and they are considering hiring a new product to do a shop for them. So that's what the jobs to be done framework. They will have forces that move them towards having acquiring this new product or solution, and things that will prevent them from moving that way. So if we analyze this for companies with lack of strategy and trying to adopt this new behavior of setting up their product direction, the product strategy, we can find that this is nothing new. So there is no product leader who will say, hey, no, we don't need to be strategic. So this is a well-understood problem. We understand that what this problem is causing, like the disconnection with the execution and the vision, the lack of impacts on wasted resources, teams working in an unaligned way, lack of focus. So there are plenty of problems that we know can be solved with the strategy, and we know that strategy is something that we may need. We have problems to adopt this new solution. First one is probably, and you may have heard this one, or you have probably experienced this one, we are too focused on this firefighting, on the problems that arise every day. So we don't give this strategic thinking time enough space on our schedule, let's put it that way. So we are all the time prioritizing the urgent over this important topic. And regrettably, this is kind of a vicious circle, because the longer we postpone the strategic work, this lack of strategy gives us more tactical and urgent problems to solve, and we postpone strategy even more. So it's a really bad cycle. But moreover, what I have been trying to focus on is that one of the problems that product leaders relate the most is that we don't know actually what to do. What is a product strategy? How will a good product strategy look? What's the method to achieve it, to create it? And who is accountable for doing it? That's one of our second question there in the previous section was, hey, who needs to build a product strategy? So this is the problem I try to focus on, because for sure time management is another topic that we can discuss for a while. But actually this one, I think, is a very pervasive one, and one that we can solve. And before jumping to the solution, let me give you a few words about myself. I've been leading product for many, many years. I started as a software engineer, but then I moved to product. I been leading product in the gaming industry, then in the travel industry, and now most recently in Xing. But besides my, let's say, my formal product jobs, I also really like spreading the word, like in this setup. So really trying to help the community and receive and interact with the community. I also organize product tank in different cities. I write a lot of articles on Medium. And recently I launched a podcast called 100 Product Strategies, where I interview product leaders about their product strategy challenges. So also, if you're facing challenges, this might be a good opportunity to learn more. And finally, I really like helping product people. So last year, I published a book called Product Direction, which is all about creating strategy and how we connect the strategy to execution. And I also been doing training programs and coaching either with different institutions and also by myself in productdirection.com. But that being said, let's jump into how to create a product strategy. And the intention today, as I said, is to make it very practical, but for sure, this will be a framework. As any framework or any model is an abstraction of a reality, a very complex reality, because product strategy is not only difficult, but also changes a lot depending on the industry, the product maturity, and many other factors. So my intention is to give you a few building blocks with a pointer to how to solve them, so you can actually apply these to your context. And I hope that will spark some, as I said, practical approaches to getting there. So if we try to explain what product strategy in practice means, I usually have these 4 building blocks. The first one is understanding the insights that are lying out there and the opportunities we can pursue. The second one is to select the right ones. The third one is to, for the ones we selected, create goals and understand the assumptions we are having around them. And finally, doing a synthesis that will help us make it memorable and communicate it all over. We will explore these 4 steps today. For sure, we will communicate them or we will tell them in a linear way, but reality is much more complex. They are intertwined. We will go back and forth here and there. But as I said, this is kind of a model that you can adapt to your context and reality. And I will try to explain that with a practical case. And we'll try to explain it from the perspective of a company which is focused on groceries delivery. So that's a service they provide. And they want to differentiate from, and by the way, this is a real case from a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. They want to differentiate from restaurants delivery, which is a very crowded market, red ocean sort of. They already are in a handful of cities with good market penetration, so they already achieve product market fit, and their key goal is to maximize current market penetration and the share of wallet they have with their customers, because they know that, so the main competitors are the actual stores and the physical purchase rather than the app or the service, the online service they are providing. And we will explore this. Maybe I will go back to one slide. As you can see here in the diagram, I try to put that there are many tools for each of these steps. So we will try to explain one of the tools for each of the steps, so to make it more tangible for you. And before we jump into that, one of the questions also was about what type of information we need to come up with the strategy. And if you saw my end connectors in the 4 building blocks, at the beginning, I have actually gathering information. And what that's not a real step in the strategy, what's kind of step 0, is because most product teams are doing this day in, day out. So it's not that we will come up once a year, we'll say, hey, now it's strategy done, and then we will review our KPIs and we will do benchmark. This is hopefully something that you are doing constantly. So when coming to the strategy, you will probably do more the exercise of compiling in your head those important pieces of information you compile already over time. And this is only to give an idea that we need multiple dimensions to analyze this. So in this matrix, for example, this is not the full list, but this is just to give you an idea that we need to consider many, many aspects. We have things that can be definitions, like, for instance, the vision and mission. So it's a selection we do, it's not kind of a result we get from elsewhere. We get the results part, which is kind of how we perform and the results we get from our actual results doing our service. And we have external inputs. And if we divide it in different layers, we can think about a company layer that can be the company mission or vision. We can have the company KPIs, or industry reports can be at the company level getting external information. We can have it for the for the customers. So again, we can select what segments and needs we want to focus on, but we also have customer feedback and external customer research. And the same for product, we will have a vision, we will have our results, and we will have our benchmarks for external competitors. With all that information, again, that we will not just do it as part of a strategy, we are doing this constantly, we will start with the insights step or building block. And what we are trying to do here is it's not some mystical thing like Steve Jobs kind of connecting the dots in the ether. It's a very practical approach to identify the problems or tendencies or opportunities that we know or we perceive that if we act on them, we can have a radical impact, so we can radically change the game. And this is, as I said, probably feels a bit awkward said that way, and we will view a few examples, but in essence is what mostly we do in discovery. We are constantly going through this information and discovering new insights. And this at the strategy level, what we're trying to do is organize this opportunity space and trying to understand the movements. And why we want a strategy based on insights is because we are simply following hunches, and many companies do this, and this is a very real problem. Luckily, we coming from the product discipline, we usually have a lot of this focus on coming from insights, coming from research. So usually this is not a problem for the product people, but again, we need to lay out the insights and base our next steps on this identification of these learnings. And just to give you a quick example, insights can come in many shapes and forms. And usually when we are discussing insights, the first examples that will come up are these super big trends that are changed in customer behavior, like for instance, when Netflix started streaming or when Steve Jobs revolutionized how we use a phone. But while those are nice and useful, we most of the time have other type of insights that are as valuable as those, maybe not as shiny as those, but as valuable. And to give you the opposite example, if we are thinking about this matrix, we can have things that are internal to our company or external to the outside world, and we can have things that are more related to our business model and things that are more related to how the customer behaves or customer experience. So as I was saying, we have these streaming services will be on this consumer behavior far-fetched part. But if we are thinking, for example, of automation is not shiny at all. But if we find an opportunity to automate some part of a process or to build some machine learning that will categorize things faster or things like that, we can have a very interesting impact on customer satisfaction and on the business model, and we can save a lot of money, and we can make our product much more rentable. So it's a very interesting way to come up with different insights. If we think about, for example, on the customer axis, but internal to our product, is a very famous example. Is when Facebook in the early days realized that people who have 7 friends or more have a radically better retention than those who don't. And they changed the product experience to add very quickly 7 friends. And if we think about external, kind of this external behavior, but not related to the customer, more related to the business model, we can think about the low-cost airlines, which they're still providing the same service, the same travel from point A to point B experience for the customers. They focus on how they can radically reduce the price to revolutionize the travel industry. So again, many shapes and colors, that's the only message here. But let's discuss how we can actually identify those. As I was saying, there are many tools to do so, but one that I really like, and also because it's very simple, and I hope even some of you may know it, is the Opportunity Solution Tree, a tool by Teresa Torres, is conceived or used during the discovery phase, but we can actually start using it for our strategy purposes. And how we might use it, we can put at the top the desired outcomes we want to achieve, and then start thinking about the opportunities we can pursue to achieve those outcomes. And furthermore, we can divide the opportunities into sub-opportunities or lower level opportunities that can help us map this big opportunity space. And one way to think about, or the benefit of using this tool, is that usually when we are thinking about insights, we jump too quickly to the selection phase. So say, hey, we get in love with this opportunity that we identify, and we jump to, hey, this is our strategy, let's focus on this. And what we're trying to do, and this tool is very useful for that, is to cover a lot of our opportunity space, and this is how we can use it. So, for example, going to our grocery delivery service, we can have we have as a key desired outcome increase grocery sales. So we can consider, for example, one opportunity or one way to increase grocery sales is having more stores. So we have a little bit, in each city, we have a limited set of stores, we want more. And one of the sub-opportunities we can do to do so is that we have, for example, a very tedious and lengthy manual onboarding process. We have an opportunity to do an easier and faster onboarding for those stores. We can discuss, for instance, the higher frequency and conversion of the customers. And for example, one thing we can offer is faster delivery. But if instead of one day, we do it in a few hours. And we can pursue, for example, the higher order value also to impact the grocery sales. And for that, for example, we can introduce fresh produce, because that's a vertical like fruits and vegetables that we currently don't have, but we believe can have a benefit and impact on by adding this sub-vertical of groceries. So as you can see, you can map all your opportunities. You can put all the insights you have into a categorized opportunity space that you can actually use for selection. Again, many tools. This is one, very easy, but let's jump. After you have mapped all these opportunities, again, very critical step to make sure you can select based on all the bets you have available. We jump into this one, which, as you can imagine, as the word says, it's about focusing on the most promising strategy drivers that you will get from this opportunity space, but also understanding that you are saying no to many other things. So there are trade-offs involved in pursuing them. And moreover, it's not only about selecting the most promising opportunity because it has more revenue. It's because we are trying to position ourselves in a very particular way. So it's not about, hey, we have these 3 opportunities, which bring us more revenue, let's pursue that one. We have these strengths, and with these strengths, we can build this position and we can defend these advantages in the future. And that's how we are trying to select. So let's try, again, this is something that might sound theoretical. You might have heard a lot about strategic advantages and things like that. So let's make it practical. And one very practical way to do it is to use a tool that I call Strengthen the Core, which is about selecting those opportunities that can strengthen and improve our value and differentiation in the market. So a very simple example that will probably sound a very bit too obvious is the Apple ecosystem. And the way to use this tool is to think, okay, I have this ecosystem, I have my key value proposition, and I'm trying to pursue this opportunity or focus on this space. What is the advantage I have to pursue this space versus my competitors by having my core value proposition? And on the other side, I want to do exactly the opposite, the other way around. I want to say, okay, by pursuing this opportunity, how do I strengthen my current value proposition? So let's pick any example you want from Apple, let's say Apple Music. By pursuing the music space, Apple can be automatically successful because they can deliver this service to billions of devices they already have in the market. So their core ecosystem will make this opportunity successful immediately. But also by pursuing the music space, so the Apple Music service, they will provide more value to the ecosystem. They have something new the users can do with the device, and they have a lot of synergies like your playlist, your library will sync among different devices. So you can see how they are doing this game of making this successful, but also this success strengthen my value proposition, and I can do this with other opportunities over and over again. This may sound like something that only Apple can do, so let's go back to our example and let's focus on grocery deliveries. And I have the counter example to start with. Let's say we want to focus on restaurant delivery, or we consider that opportunity. For sure, that's a very big market, probably bigger than the grocery delivery. But as I said, there is a lot of people out there that is already doing so. And furthermore, for sure, by adding restaurant delivery, I have opportunity to cross-sell. So I can make restaurants delivery successful because I have an app that is already for delivery with many services. But by adding restaurant delivery, I don't add any value to my groceries delivery. So there is no synergy there. If, on the other hand, I select, for example, the fresh produce parts of fruits and vegetables, I can say that by adding this product, again, the same thing, since I have already groceries deliveries, I have people shopping for groceries, and this is a new sub-vertical that they will be immediately exposed to, so they will start buying these fresh products. On the other hand, by adding this fresh produce, I will attract customers that today don't find value in my service because they are mostly focused on buying, or they buy a lot of fruits and vegetables, so they are doing the shopping offline, and when they shop offline, they will buy the rest of the groceries offline as well. So by adding these customers that might be attracted by this value proposition, I will automatically have more people that will also buy the rest of the groceries I have available. So you can see how this synergy plays out and how this strengthens my groceries value proposition, my core value proposition. Okay, this was the two most difficult steps. Now it's getting easier or gets into more known fields. And the third step is goals and assumptions. Here we are trying to just say, okay, for this space, we're trying to pursue what's our success criteria, how do we know we're winning, and also trying to make very clear the assumptions and hypotheses, because for sure our insights has some, as I said, so we're basing on something that we know, but we are making a leap of faith, saying, okay, I know this, so I assume that by doing that, I will achieve this result. And we want to make this hypothesis very explicit because, as I said, when we jump to discovery, we want teams to be able to pursue that. So this can come in any shape or form. For example, this little table would say, hey, fresh produce, we have what's our goal? Increase average order value by 10%. We have an assumption that users are willing to purchase fresh produce in our app. And for example, I can easily say, no, I like to see the maturity of my bananas. So I will not purchase through an app. I want to go to the store. So there is a real risk there that we need to validate and experiment during discovery. And finally, one way to prioritize these assumptions is by adding a failure probability and the impact if it fails. So very well-known method to prioritize risks. Again, I hope this is a very known space, so I'm moving fast so we can get to the end. And finally, we have the synthesis step in which we are trying to make our strategy clear and memorable. What does it mean? That probably during the insights, during the selection, we went back and forth, we incorporated more information, and we make a very big document, probably a slide deck with hundreds of slides or something like that, that we will share in 2 hours meeting with our executive team, leadership team, probably product teams as well. But at some point, we need to make this memorable. And I like to compare this with what Picasso did with the bull's pictogram. I'm not sure if you have seen, but he did basically an array of pictograms depicting a bull. And when he started, the initial pictograms were adding more details to the bull. So he started with a somewhat realistic bull, and he added more for the first few diagrams, he added more details. And that's exactly what you're doing in the strategy. You will want to select an opportunity, and for that selection, or to validate that selection, you want to gather more data, and we're doing this back and forth to add more details. But at some point, Picasso started removing lines, and he went to the extreme to writing the same bull, or being able to show the same bull with only a few lines. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with the strategy. Again, many ways to do it. Very easy framework is what I call the driver's model, probably may have another names, but it's about stating your driver, which will have a name, a key result, and a few lines describing why this is important. If we go to example, we have fresh produce. Again, our goal is 10% increase in order value. Why? Because it's the top selling grocery product missing in our app. So if you analyze the sub-verticals, this is the one we don't have and is the biggest one. But furthermore, we want to reach new customers that are interested in this vertical and also increase for existing customers the items per order. So again, you can explain very quickly why it is important. This doesn't mean that you won't have these big presentations, but more importantly, what we want to do is that the strategy is not something you communicate once every year or once every 6 months. You want to have this slide very present and help teams make everyday decisions, knowing that there's a strategy behind it that they can remember easily. All right, those are the 4 steps. Hopefully that was a bit fast and a lot of information. I want to zoom out for a second because you may be wondering, okay, now I have a strategy, how do I connect that? For sure, we are not covering this today, but as I was saying, what I call product direction is a bit bigger. We have a strategy. We want to deploy the strategy into a strategic roadmap that is a bit more granular on, okay, this driver, what are the key areas we need to fulfill to get this driver, how we will plot that over time, what's the right sequence. And finally, this will inform quarter by quarter what are the goals we want to pursue that will connect us to execution. So I hope this this is a very high level picture, but just to let you know that strategy is not the end. It's the most important step, probably. It's very, a lot of work. But then we need to do some extra work to connect it to execution. And I hope that also clarifies, going back to the beginning, how we are trying to choose the right space so that teams can move forward in discovery and delivery. 3 takeaways for you to consider. Strategy, as I say, is one of the most important activities, not only to set team ups for success, but also to empower them, because we are not deciding for them what they need to do. And this is going back to what who is accountable for strategy. Product leaders are accountable for the strategy, and by doing the strategy work, but for sure they're doing collaborating with the product team and the external stakeholders. Going back to our beginning, is kind of something multiplayer sport, but by doing the strategy and clarifying the problems they need to work on, we empower them to find the right solutions and to impact what we really need them to impact. Second thing is that there is a practical approach to define strategy and connect it to roadmaps and OKRs. Hopefully, you can adapt this to your personal situation. And finally, this practical approach is also based on a set of tools that can help you navigate the challenges, because there are many challenging decisions and analysis that you need to do, and you don't need to do this on your head or doing just brainstorming out of the blue on a whiteboard. There are tools that can help you navigate these challenges. Then they will also help you improve your strategic thinking. And that's it from my side. Before the questions, maybe a few things. You can download the slides in productdirection.co/events. You will see they're already there. You can also download a free strategy guide on productdirection.co. We'll have more tools than the ones we discussed today. And if you like, you can also find the book available on Amazon in every country, or every country Amazon is available. For sure, I would love to connect in LinkedIn or any other method you want to connect with me.
Thank you, Nacho. That was really interesting talk, and I'm sure that I had a lot of takeaways. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing the insights.
Should I stop? Sure.
Yeah, please. Yeah, so it's now time for our QA session. Please share your questions with us on the platform that you're on, and we're going to transfer them to Nacho. While we get the questions in, I'd like to share just some use cases that Product People covers. So we can cover for your PM positions while you're on the lookout for permanent PMs, or in case your PM is going for a longer leave. And not only we do interim product management, we also do product coaching or consultancy. So if your product team would like some coaching sessions, we could also do that. And we can help you discover the next impactful product or run a low or no code pilot. And so we have some of our clients listed below. So like Zalando, OneFootball, and Tier. And here is some positive feedback from clients. I'm just gonna leave this for a few seconds for you guys to skim it. And here is the canvas of our Product People team. We've been growing a lot in the past few months, and if you're up for it, there's actually a place for you to join us. So we are hiring. So we're hiring product managers for all levels. So if you'd like to, please feel free to visit boards.eu.greenhouse.io/productpeople and apply there directly. And with that being said, thanks a lot for listening. Now it's time for questions. For people who are on the Zoom, please feel free to raise your hand, and we're gonna just speak out your question out loud. And we're also gonna transfer all the questions from all the other platforms. And yeah, I can see Amir raising his hand. So Amir, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Nacho, for a really interesting presentation. My question is around basically, assuming you got like a solid strategy for 2-3 years out, then how would you go about the sequence between setting goals versus roadmap? So one approach is just to set a goal and set a couple of goals and then build a roadmap based on the impact on those goals. And another one would be kind of defining the roadmap top down based on areas that you would see with the sequence of the features and products that would achieve this strategy, and then define goals that would kind of map you and how efficient and effective you are in achieving and materializing the strategy. To give an example, like my concern regarding the first approach, which is like first setting goals and then defining roadmap, is sometimes you end up having a narrow view and kind of end up doing local optimizations and don't make a big leap on doing product market fit expansion and, do things that really take the company to the next level rather than optimizing on a local level.
Got it. Yeah, I think one of the things I like to have, or at least to consider, is that we have goals at different levels. So, for example, in going back to your case, I usually suggest that when we set up a strategy, we try to put goals around the strategy. And these goals are for sure not kind of team goals, so they are not, say, local optimum, because we're trying to say, hey, if we pursue this strategic bet that we're trying to see, how do we know that we are having success? So these are kind of these big level goals, usually annual or biannual in this case of kind of having a long-term strategy. Then we move to roadmaps, say, hey, which are the key opportunities we have, what's the relational order, and so on. But then for those roadmaps, then we will have probably swim lanes that are more ready to either what a team or a set of teams can pursue, and that will have a secondary level goal. And hopefully will add up to the next one. And for sure in that secondary goal, you can have local optimus, but by having first your goals around the strategy, hopefully you are optimizing for the global and not for each kind of swim line of the roadmap or each team on your organization.
Okay, got it. So that's kind of like a North Star for that initiative, basically.
That's a good way to say, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amir, for sharing your question. We have another question from Tejas on Zoom. So as a product leader who's changing jobs from one industry to another, how would you go about creating the strategy, assuming you don't have enough knowledge of the new industry? In other words, what learnings would you focus on in order to bring in a strategy?
That's a great question. I actually have a first-hand experience because when I joined Xing, I was coming from a travel industry to this professional social network / job marketplace area. And to be honest, the key focus for me was understanding the industry. So let me put it another way, when you are sharing with different people in organizations, so for sure, as a product leader onboarding into a new industry, you will not create the strategy by your own. No one is expecting that probably, and you probably should not set yourself up to do that. And likely the people coming with information, joining your team to set up the strategy, will have a lot of internal information. So they will be probably the ones providing the internal KPIs, the past user research, the company vision, and things like that. So you will probably receive that. Hopefully, they also have some market information. But what I find interesting is that when you have been in a company for many, many years, you have all this internal knowledge that actually can give you some blind spots about the external information. So going back to what I was saying, I like to get some external information to be able to contrast my views with those coming from the internal view. And for sure, this will be an interesting debate. And as I said, you will not be the one fully responsible for making all decisions, and you can be a facilitator of the process, but having or focusing first on this understanding the industry will make it probably more, your input will be more useful in that way. And to make it more concrete, maybe what I'm talking about is reading the industry reports, understanding who are the competitors, understanding the competitors' models. So yeah, all this, if the industry is growing, what are the, if it's a multi-geography region, which are the key geographies, things like that that will help you understand kind of the broader model. And then people coming, joining your strategy team will bring you more the internal views, probably. Hope it helps.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Also seeing some kudos from the other platforms. So thank you so much, Nacho, for your talk today. And I see a question just coming in right now from YouTube, from Michael Rose. So the question is, could you name some ways to expand your vision to achieve a specific goal and not be stuck in the same narrative? He's just trying to find out another approach that is not obvious.
Yeah, maybe I mean, I'm guessing about the question, so I probably need more context, but I will give you one example that maybe fits. One tool that he mentioned that I used in the insights phase is the 3 horizons of growth of McKinsey. And for sure, McKinsey is just one way to display it, but the intention behind it is saying, okay, we have things that will improve our core business and are kind of more known fields, and they will give us some growth in the next year. We will have other bets that are our expansion bets. I'm probably going back to the first question. It's around how we can expand our product market fit. This can be new geographies, new customer segments, repositioning our product different ways. So this is kind of the second horizon. And this is something that we as product people need to be very cautious about, because we don't all need to focus on optimization. We need to ensure that our product is growing to secure the future revenues for our company. And the third layer of growth is this kind of crazy experiments that you will say, hey, I'm testing this completely new space that is an explore for us. And we can combine these ideas. As I said, this is kind of the insights part, trying to come up with things for the core business, things that are for expansion and growth, and things that are for the kind of future models. We can combine this with what Google uses as the 70-20-10 model. That will say, hey, 70% of our resources should go to our core business, but then we make sure that 20% are focused on this next horizon, and 10% is focused on our longer term bets. So you could probably, it's a well-known model, but this is a way to ensure that your strategy is accounting not only for this, let's say, not only optimization strategy, but also accounting for growth and making sure that you are placing the right investments to secure that growth over time.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I also see another question coming in from LinkedIn from Elizabeth Romanova, our own. So how far out in terms of a timeline would you recommend to create a product strategy, taking into account that one should remain responsive and keep a pulse on the industry in which they operate? Yeah,
that's something that usually depends a lot in the 3 things: the industry, how fast-paced is the industry, because SaaS is completely different from airlines. The second one is product maturity. It's quite different to do kind of for a new product that for 5 or 10-year-old product is already in the market. And the third one will be the company maturity. So it's a startup or it's something bigger. So for sure, the bigger and more stable, the longer term the strategy should be and could be. The more fast-paced and the more startup in the context, the shorter term you can plan the strategy, because if not, you are making bets that you're just super uncertain about. So that being said, just to give you a concrete answer, in an existing company, an existing product, I usually aim for 18 months. If it's super stable, it can be longer. If it's super unstable, it can be shorter, but that's my usually go-to number.
Yeah, thank you. And just like a follow-up on that, is there a way that we can account for some flexibility in the product strategy? So 18 months is quite a long time. So how would you account for like flexibility, changes in trends and so on?
Yeah, that's the follow-up question is how often do we update that strategy, or how often we review that strategy? And I usually say that this is for sure it's in an ongoing basis. So when you have a super new important insights that refutes your strategy, you need to go back to the drawing board. But usually with the OKRs, we are checking if we are making progress towards the strategy. So every 3 months, we will have, as part of our strategy review, as part of our OKR review, kind of an indication if our strategy is still solid and we can still move on. Because another thing I didn't say is that this 18 months is not that every 18 months we do it. Probably we want some sort of rolling strategy that we check every 6 months or 1 year, we update the next phase of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. We also have a question from Simon on LinkedIn. So besides your own, which book would you recommend reading up on product strategy insights?
Yeah, so there are two. One is Empower, which is not about strategy, but has a very important section around it, and it's kind of Marty Kagan, very easy to recommend Marty Kagan. And the second one it's called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy by Richard Ramalt. This is not a product strategy book, but it's a very strong framework that is kind of a bit less theoretical and has a lot of good insights and examples to follow. I have, I'm not sure if it's easy to find for me now, but on Medium, if you search my profile on Medium, you will find a list of recommended books and resources for strategic thinking.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and other than that, I don't see a lot of questions coming in anymore. So, oh wait. Okay, so yeah. So we'd just like to thank everyone for joining in tonight, and yeah, please feel free to join our meetup. Please feel free to join our Telegram chat if you want to stay up to date and not miss any upcoming talks. We have more exciting meetups coming up. We have next week on the 12th of July, we have our own Angelica Testini, Senior PM at Product People, speaking about the hardest part of being a PM and 8 soft skills that will help you thrive. So make sure to tune into that. And if you have any suggestions who we should invite next, or if you would like to speak, please reach out to us. And we hope to see many of you next time. Thanks, everyone.